The meeting room was already full when she walked in, carrying a notebook that no one seemed to notice. Conversations continued as if she wasn't there. Senior managers spoke over one another, chairs scraped the floor, laptops opened, and she quietly took her seat at the far end of the table. This wasn't the first time she'd been overlooked in a room like this. Still, she listened carefully, observing every detail, every assumption being made without question. As the discussion moved forward, ideas were thrown around confidently, but none of them addressed the real problem. She raised her hand slightly, waiting for a pause that never came. Someone interrupted her before she could finish a sentence. Another person glanced at their phone. The meeting rolled on, decisions forming quickly, built on incomplete understanding. She lowered her hand, not defeated, but calculating. Sometimes being ignored gave you the clearest view of what everyone else was missing. At the head of the table, the project leader summarized the plan, clearly satisfied. It was then that she noticed something no one else had. One critical flaw that could undo months of work. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from certainty. This time, staying quiet would cost everyone. She straightened in her chair, closed her notebook, and waited for the exact moment when silence would matter most. The room finally paused when a technical question stalled the conversation. She spoke calmly, not loudly, just enough to cut through the noise. At first, a few people looked surprised, others mildly impatient, but she didn't rush. She pointed out the overlooked detail, explaining how it connected to the larger strategy. A couple of heads turned, laptops stopped clicking. The room, which had felt crowded moments ago, suddenly felt focused. One of the senior managers challenged her, asking where this concern had been earlier. She didn't take it personally. Instead, she walked them step by step through the data, the timeline, and the consequences if the issue went unaddressed. Her clarity changed the tone of the room. What had started as resistance slowly became curiosity. Questions followed. Not dismissive ones, but serious ones. As the discussion shifted, people began building on her insight. Someone adjusted their original proposal. Another asked her opinion directly. The project leader leaned forward, listening more carefully now. Without raising her voice or demanding attention, she had redirected the entire meeting. The room wasn't just hearing her anymore, it was depending on her. The meeting took an unexpected turn. What had been a fast push toward approval slowed into careful reevaluation. Charts were revisited, assumptions were questioned. The confidence that once filled the room softened into thoughtful silence. She remained composed, answering when asked, never interrupting, never over-explaining. Her presence shifted the atmosphere from hurried agreement to deliberate decision-making. Eventually, the project leader acknowledged what had become obvious. He admitted that the issue she raised had been missed, and that catching it now had likely saved the team from serious consequences later. The acknowledgement wasn't loud or dramatic, but it was sincere. Several people nodded quietly. Respect, once withheld, had settled naturally in the room. When the meeting wrapped up, people lingered longer than usual. A few approached her with follow-up questions. Others thanked her for speaking up when it mattered. She gathered her notebook, the same one no one noticed when she arrived, and smiled politely. She hadn't changed who she was. The room had simply caught up. As she walked out, the meeting room returned to its normal rhythm, but something was different. Decisions were better. Listening came easier, and she understood a quiet truth she'd learned over time. Control doesn't come from demanding attention. It comes from knowing when to speak and being ready when the moment arrives.